Chapter 91. 10 years. Without a doubt that was Frieza. Vegeta said in disbelief as he saw how that female Saiyan completely obliterated one of the ki signature they felt. Not only Frieza but that other brute with the huge amount of ki was taken care of as well. They are both dead. Tenshinhan spoke out, obviously shocked as well. Wow, Goku got really strong. He only took a second to take out these guys. Bulma exclaimed happily as she couldn't see such long distance. That wasn't Goku, but they appear to be Super Saiyans. Without saying anything else, the group took off towards the mysterious group that took out Frieza and his company. Yamcha had to take Bulma with her as she couldn't fly. Vegeta and the other Z fighters quickly approached them. Still a distance away, they stopped as there seemed to be another conflict in the group that took out Frieza. Suddenly another figure seemed to materialize right next to the other five. The Z fighters immediately recognized the figure as Son Goku. They didn't know why, but Son Goku had suddenly appeared out of nowhere. They quickly approached him and landed a few tens of meters away. They only now realized that the other five seemed to be split into two groups. On one hand was a young guy with purple hair and a sword on his back, and the other were three women with a 2.3-meter tall man in the middle. The guy with the purple hair backed away from the other group towards Goku and the other Z fighters as he was holding his stomach. Unbelievable. Other Saiyans. Vegeta blurted out as he saw the tails on their waists of three out of the other group. The other one seemed to be some kind of alien he hadn't seen before. Vegeta was gritting his teeth from the moment they came in. He had felt being suppressed. Although they didn't leak any energy, he knew that they were still leagues above him. He looked at the Super Saiyan woman, but it seemed like she wasn't even the strongest out of the group. He had already heard that when he was out in space, tremendous amount of ki was being released, but even after searching, he and the group couldn't find the suspects. But now they finally have shown themselves. The tall guy stepped forwards and began to speak. I am Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan. Vegeta felt suppressed as this Broly guy spoke. This wasn't only for Vegeta but for Goku and Trunks as well. Broly smiled as he saw the reaction of the group. You Saiyans, what do you want here? Goku shouted out. Goku couldn't tell, but he was feeling anxious just speaking with Broly. We just want the Dragon Balls. Make a wish and off we go. Broly's eyes suddenly turned yellow and Trunks and Goku panicked as they immediately turned Super Saiyan. Their body was covered in golden light as their hair and eyes changed. Goku looked surprised at Trunks. He wouldn't have thought there was another Super Saiyan, and he just looked like him. He refocused his attention on Broly. Should I take that you won't allow us? Broly's figure suddenly flashed and instantly appeared in front of Goku. He backhanded him straight in the face, sending him off into the distance. Trunks couldn't even follow with his eyes until Goku was already hit. He only saw a shadow approach him from the corner of his eye, and he was smacked away hard as well. Broly had already returned into his base form, but he was still leagues above Goku and Trunks, who only had turned Super Saiyan recently. There was no way for them to last even a second against Broly's base. If he became serious, Broly let his eyes wander over the Z fighters and stopped at Vegeta. He approached Vegeta and stood directly in front of him. He gave props to Vegeta, whose body was shaking, but still stood his ground and only breathed heavily as he looked Broly in the eye. Broly smiled at him and spoke out. And who are you, little one? Are you lost, little child? Vegeta was gritting his teeth. He would not take this humiliation. I am Vegeta, the prince of all Saiyans. Hiya, Vegeta's ki suddenly flared up. It even had a tinge of gold inside. He jumped off the ground and punched at Broly's chin with all his might. Vegeta only felt like his fist punched against an unmovable object. His fist was instantly broken. You want to be prince of us Saiyans with your pathetic strength? You don't even look like a Saiyan. Where the fuck is your tail? Don't fucking embarrass yourself. Broly grabbed Vegeta by the hair and kneed him in the face. Vegeta instantly fainted and was thrown away to the side. The other Z fighters were sweating as they saw Vegeta being easily disposed of. They knew they were nowhere near this guy's power. Trunks and Goku finally rushed back. Trunks swung his sword, but it was blocked before he could get near Broly. Kana pinched the sword like she did earlier. She smirked at Trunks before sweeping him off his feet, and midair kicked him, sending him through multiple boulders. Goku was blocked as well by Aaliyah, who instantly pummeled him into the ground. The Z fighters were worried as they saw their only hope, the strongest of them, being easily dominated and beaten up. Goku and Trunks couldn't stand a chance. Even as Super Saiyans, they weren't even able to scratch those Saiyans in front of them. Piccolo and the others dared no to make a move as they looked warily at Broly. However, Broly paid attention to Goku, who was preparing for an attack. Don't interrupt him. I want to see that attack. Broly told Aaliyah telepathically. All right. Goku first stretched out his hand to the front and brought his cupped hands to his side. Kami. Ki was being concentrated in his hands into a single point. Kami. A white-bluish sphere formed in his hand, and its light shone between his hands. Goku's vein on his forehead almost popped as he was putting all his strength into this attack. Hararoya. Goku thrusts his hands forward and a streaming, powerful beam of energy shot out. It burned the air and incinerated everything in its path. Aaliyah calmly held up her hand. The moment the wave made contact with her hand, she was being pushed backwards. Her legs created trenches on her way. She suddenly stopped and flicked her hand upwards. The beam was redirected into the air before it exploded into a grand fireball. Ha! She just blocked it with one hand. Goku couldn't believe that his attack was blocked so effortlessly. Not a bad move. Aaliyah commented while looking at Goku with indifferent eyes that sent shivers down Goku's back. Trunks dashed out of the rubble in his base form. He was bleeding all over his body, as was Goku. They looked at Broly, who seemed to be the leader of the group. With your strength, it shouldn't be a problem to defeat us in seconds, if I sensed your energy right previously. What do you want? Yes, I could. Why? Do you want to give up already? I already told you what we are here for. Hee, I am not giving up. It is just that I don't feel any evil intent from you. Broly grinned at them. You are not ripe yet. In 10 years, I will come back to this planet with the intent to kill everyone on it. You better prepare a few warriors to entertain us, otherwise I will blow up this planet. Mwahahaha. As soon as he said that, Broly flew into the sky and took off towards his ship. The girls quickly followed him back. After Broly disappeared, the Z fighters fell onto their knees. They were sweating and breathing heavily. They were exhausted even though they weren't even fighting. I think we now know who released that key a while ago. Krillin said out of breath. Yeah, I could feel that the other's key from the group seemed also be the same we felt a few months ago, even though they heavily suppressed it. Goku and Trunks laid down on the ground and slowly recovered. They weren't badly hurt, but just extremely fatigued. Trunks was confused by this event. He never heard of this Saiyan named Broly or any of his group. They were just too strong. They were even more frightening than the androids. They completely toyed with him. He couldn't even retaliate. Krillin asked Goku what bothered him since a while ago. Goku, how were you able to arrive here so quickly? It is called instant transmission. I learned it on a planet called Yardrat. After he explained everything, Goku spoke to Trunks. So, and who are you? I came here for something else. I need to tell you something, Goku. While Trunks told Goku about the oncoming android threat in 3 years and gave Goku the medicine for the heart virus, Broly was pondering. He couldn't understand why Trunks was still able to come here. Shouldn't Helen's arrival split off the timeline into a new one? Trunks should have gone to the timeline where Helen didn't come back in time, right? Wait, did Trunks even appear in her timeline? If my soul entered the main timeline, shown in the series, and didn't create a different timeline by doing so, then it would explain why Trunks would be able to travel either to this or Helen's timeline. But why did he enter this one instead of Helen's? And why wouldn't me being here create a different timeline? Fuck, my brain hurts. Fuck it. Let's just get this wish for now. Chapter 92. Wish. Broly went ahead and gathered the Dragon Balls. He put them on the ground a bit to the side. He outstretched his arms and said the following words. Come fort, Shenlong, and grant us our wish. The Dragon Ball started blinking, and the sky was darkened by thunderclouds. A bright golden light beam suddenly shot out the Dragon Balls and swirled into the sky. The light beam seemed to solidify before breaking off and revealing the green scales beneath it. A majestic aura was released by the gigantic dragon, Shenlong. The Z fighters saw Shenlong being summoned in the distance. Shouldn't we stop them? Krillin asked, concerned. Even if we tried, it would only take one of them to stop us all. Tenshinhan answered. Although he was frustrated that he was helpless against them, it only made him strive for more power. Vegeta, after he woke up and saw that even the 2 Super Saiyans were beaten up, he scoffed at Goku. Humph. Even you, a Super Saiyan, was nothing against them. There is always someone stronger than you, and I will become someone like that as well. Vegeta quickly took off and headed towards Bulma's spaceship. He wanted to get off this planet and train in outer space to become a Super Saiyan. But he wouldn't stop there. He would become the strongest Super Saiyan that ever existed until he can squash that Saiyan named Broly like an ant. He didn't care about the androids that were supposedly going to come in a few years. They would only be stepping stones for him. Oh boy. Don't worry, Trunks. He will come back, and I promise I will beat these androids up. Goku reassured. Shortly afterwards, Trunks took off with his time machine, and the Z fighters resolved themselves to train as hard as they can to prevent the android threat, and to prevent Broly from destroying the planet in 10 years. Goku now had a new goal. He had to become a lot stronger to even fight Broly evenly. He was especially conscious about the fact that Broly said he was the legendary Super Saiyan and showed no reaction to his or Trunks' Super Saiyan, which would only mean one thing. Broly was capable to become a Super Saiyan as well. Maybe even his followers were able to do the same thing, but they didn't even bother to use it against them. The disparity between him and them was just too big. He also needed other people to alleviate the pressure off him. If the group was only remotely in the same level, he would need other warriors to fight with him. He wouldn't believe that they weren't going to become stronger as well. Goku looked at his son and decided to train him. We have 3 years to get strong enough for the androids, and for Broly we have 10 years. This will be a busy decade.
Piccolo commented.
A dragon with brown antlers, red eyes, long whiskers, and a long serpentine body hovered midair and stared down at the people who summoned him. Thee who have gathered the 7 Dragon Balls, speak forth thy wish. I shall grant thee any one wish. Shenlong's voice boomed as he spoke. I wish for the soul of Cacus to be removed from my body. Shenlong's eyes flashed for a second. Thy wish cannot be fulfilled as the soul thee speak of is not present. Wish for something else. Oh great, just double-checking now for my wish. I wish for us and our spaceship to be teleported to the planet New Namek, where the Namekians now reside on. This wish is easy. Shenlong's red eyes started glowing, and in an instant Broly and company were teleported to another planet. AI, couldn't you have told us that we are going to another planet? Kana said as she almost face-bombed the ground. I already told you all that we are going to use the Namekians' Dragon Balls. You didn't tell us that it was on another planet. She rebuked. Oh, by the way, the Namekians live on another planet. All right, let's go collect them. Broly picked out the Dragon Radar and pressed the button, and the Dragon Balls were shown on the screen. Broly sighed out in relief as he didn't know if it was already time for them to be restored. After all, they had wished to be brought here only a few months back. He saw 3 Dragon Balls flying to one direction. Fortunately, the other Dragon Balls were also located there. It seems like they were prepared to make another wish. Okay, this way. Broly said as he flew in the direction where the Dragon Balls were gathering. It didn't take them long to arrive. They were even faster than the Dragon Balls that were already heading to this direction. Broly looked down from the sky to see a village with white circular homes built. It pretty much screamed Namekian, at least according to Broly's understanding. He saw many of them working on farms. Although Namekians were able to sustain themselves with only water, they could still eat solid food for nutrients. Broly noticed that the Dragon Balls were hid in a house in the middle of this tiny village. He directly landed in front of its door and tried to open it. It was locked, but Broly noticed it too late and accidentally broke through the door. He looked at the door in his hand and leaned it against the wall outside. He went inside and looked at the big Dragon Balls placed on a pillow. He suddenly heard commotion outside and figured that he should at least talk to them, since he can't get his wishes if he doesn't speak the language. When he thought about it, he was still amazed that most races in this universe evolved into speaking the same language with only few exceptions. Language is after all intertwined with culture. Maybe someone wished for a common language with the Super Dragon Balls, but there are still races who speak other languages. Another idea would be the Kais decided the language. They are after all responsible for creating life and supervising it. It is entirely possible that they just passed down their language as the basic. Namekians were then probably influenced by Zalama, who formed the Super Dragon Balls. Thankfully, I learned it early on in the 3 years I spent in the pod. Broly stepped out and saw a few warrior Namekians ready to fight. The other Dragon Balls also already arrived. Whoa, we are not here to fight. We already know what you are after. You want the Dragon Balls? Yes, but we want to ask nicely. It is not like we can force you to make a wish that you don't want to, right? Since we don't speak Namekian, ask nicely? Yeah, right. You are just brutes that greed after them. The Namekian pointed at the door, which took the worst timing to fall and splintered even further. Look, how about we tell you what wishes we want, and you decide if they are okay or not? Doesn't that sound fair? Broly spread out his arms and took a step forward. This triggered a warrior and he stomped the ground, shooting towards Broly with a hand drawn back, ready to throw a punch. Broly's eyes flashed and the Namekian instantly fainted as he crashed strengthless into the ground and slid just in front of Broly's feet. You really shouldn't act without thinking. I already have bad experience with people who needlessly want to fight me. His voice got a notch deeper as he said that. The kids already scrammed away and were shivering behind the adults. We don't want to use the harsh method now, do we? Broly let his gaze wander around. Perchance he saw Din watching them from afar. Why don't we just take the Dragon Balls? Helen left us all kind of stuff on our computer on the ship. I think I saw that the Namekian language was included. Aaliyah suddenly told Broly telepathically. The what? For real? Wait, what else was on that? Mostly techniques that we didn't master yet, languages, and about Ikari and transformation as a whole. All right, go make sure it is there. Until you found it, I am going to talk to these Namekians. Aaliyah only nodded and headed into the distant where they left the ship. An elderly Namekian suddenly walked out of the group. Broly assumed that this was Mori or whatever his name was. Hello, visitors. I am Mori the Grand Elder. There is no reason for violence. Of course there isn't. It was your clan member who attacked us first. Yes, and you were kind enough to let him live. It is just that our original planet was just destroyed by the Emperor Frisia, and we are all still on the edge with newcomers. No hard feelings. How about we talk about the wishes we want to fulfill? Of course, please go ahead. But I hope you won't be mad if there are wishes we don't agree with. Certainly. First, I want to revive the Saiyans that died during the attack from Frisia. Since I know that the power of the Dragon Balls is limited, we are fine with just reviving my girlfriend's family. Second would be to unlock our raw potential, and third. Chapter 93, Purunga. Before he could state his last wish, Aaliyah was already coming back. She landed beside him and gave him a tablet. The atmosphere became tense again as the Namekians could feel that this would be something that would rebalance their worth. Good. Broly looked at the Namekians and gave them a grin. What I hold in my hands is a translator from the common language into yours. Broly turned the tablet for them to see. The Namekians widened their eyes in shock. This would mean he wouldn't need them anymore, as he could just get his wishes granted by his own. My third wish would be the ability to create Dragon Balls on my own. You want to create your own Dragon Balls? Yes, got a problem with that? My power far exceeds yours. If I am able to create Dragon Balls, they would be far more powerful than yours. That is impossible. It is race-specific trait. Not even all of us can create Dragon Balls. If you want that kind of power, Purunga would only be able to give it to you by heavily changing your body. Broly squinted his eyes for a second. He could sense that this wasn't a lie, and he didn't want to mess with his Saiyan body. Already figured that wouldn't be that easy. According to your wishes, it really doesn't seem that you have any ill will. Alright, you can use the Dragon Balls. But Muri, a warrior, sounded out.
No buts.
With his strength and with that translator, he would easily be able to just take them by force and make his wish, but instead he presents us his third wish. The Namekians hesitated at first, but then gave in and handed over the remaining Dragon Balls. By the way, I thought the Namekian Dragon Balls were only able to revive one person at a time. Yes, that used to be the case, but in the time we spent here, I had modified it a bit. It shouldn't be able to revive large numbers of people, but a few shouldn't be a problem. You just have to word your wish in a way that a number of revivals is seen as one wish. Nice. Alright, let's do this. Dend, if you would be so kind and translate it for Broly. For Broly? Okay, Elder Mori. They put the Dragon Balls together and summoned Purunga. Takaraput pop Purunga pupirit paro. Like the Earth's Dragon Balls, the sky darkened and a light beam shot out into the sky. The only difference that the dragon was not as slim. Instead, a dragon with a muscular upper body and arms came out. Instead of legs, it had a slithery tail which ended in the Dragon Balls. He also had large spikes on his shoulders and had horns on his head. Thou who hast gathered the 7 Dragon Balls, I shall grant thee any 3 wishes. Alright, first wish. Revive the family of Kana, who have died after planet Vegeta's explosion. Den started translating the wish. Understood. I shall accept. Purunga's eyes glowed, and suddenly 4 people appeared on the open place. Kana looked at them, and her eyes started tearing up as she quickly ran to them and gave them all a big hug. I have returned their destroyed body to its original state and brought them here as a special free service. Oh, nice. Thanks a lot. Broly looked at the crying family who were hugging each other in tears and couldn't help but smile. Alright, next wish. I wish for our raw potential to be unlocked. I shall grant you this wish. Purunga's eyes started glowing again, and Broly suddenly felt how something was opened up in his body. It was a weird sensation as new energy flowed through his body. It was like a limiter being released, and he was able to have access to power he didn't know was there. The last one. I wish for all the origin crystals to be teleported here. It is no good. It exceeds my power to move even one. Then how about me being able to tap into Ultra Instinct? It is no goo dash. Well figured. Then the ability to regenerate any body part. This is possible, but I can't do it without changing the genetics of thy body. Okay, forget about that, come on. Broly, think. Do you guys have any wishes? Broly looked at Kana, who happily shook her head. Aaliyah only smiled but stayed quiet. Don't you want to know about the curse of you Saiyans, or just lift it? Zangya asked. I don't know what the curse is, so I won't lift it, and since it seems to be from a long time, it isn't something urgent. Besides, I have another source for knowledge. After that, Zangya stayed quiet and looked into the distance disinterested. How about reviving Cherry, my mother? Broly asked Din to translate. This should be. It is no good. Another power than the other world had claimed her soul. What? She isn't in the other world? Alright, please revive the family members from Goku. Raditz, his brother, and Bardock, the father of Son Goku. The Namekians looked at him in disbelief, and Din was stunned at the thought that this group was connected to their savior. Ah, finally. I mean, thy wish is easy. Oh god damn it. Suddenly a Saiyan with hair going to his back of the knee, who was utterly confused about what was happening, appeared. I hast returned his destroyed body to its original state, and moved him here as an apology for my incapability to fulfill thy original wishes. But the one named Bardock is unable to be brought back, as neither his soul nor his body resides in this universe. Thy wishes has been granted. Farewell. After fulfilling the wishes, the Dragon Balls flew high into the sky and scattered in different cardinal directions. Broly was speechless at the shamelessness from Purunga. He just quickly buggered off. Hey Raditz. I am Broly, You are going to follow me. Giant probably has a word with you. My mother is still alive? Broly didn't bother saying anything more and turned towards the Namekians. All right, since we got what we came for, it is time for us to leave. Thanks for the translation. Oh, and sorry about the door. After saying that, Broly flew into the sky towards his spaceship, but in the corner of his eye, he saw Raditz struggling to keep up, even though they weren't even flying fast. Are you for real? The gravity of New Namek was about 12 times of planet Earth. It was only minimally higher than their home planet Vegeta. It was quite pathetic that Raditz couldn't even overcome this much. Broly flew back to Raditz and dragged him with him by his collar. Shortly afterwards, they arrived at their spaceship and embarked it. After opening the door and stepping inside, Broly gave them a short trip around the ship. He showed them their rooms and other necessities. They only had 5 rooms on this ship, so some of them had to share a room. The family from Kana were friendly. They were especially friendly after hearing that Kana and he were in a relationship. If he didn't know and couldn't see their tale, he would have assumed that they were a normal kind human family. Broly went into the cockpit and gave in coordinates. I thought my mother wanted to talk to me. Where is she? Raditz suddenly came in and asked. On that planet. He pointed at the planet on the panel which coordinates he just typed in. We will be traveling for a few months, so before we arrive, I'm going to train you at least to the level where you won't die when you set foot on that planet. Raditz seemed to be contemplating about something. You really got your ass hooped by Kakarot? Broly grinned at Raditz. You. Ha ha ha, look at you. Killed by your own little brother. I will let you know that Kakarot is able to go Super Saiyan. What? He, a Super Saiyan?
Impossible.
Believe me or not, but he became powerful enough to kill Frieza. Gulp. So, you better start training, otherwise you will never catch up. Raditz's eyes were wavering. Broly knew that Raditz was a bit of a coward, but this is just too discouraging to watch. What the fuck are you waiting for? Get your ass in the training chamber. In the next months, I will beat you up every day. With a wave of his hand, Raditz was sent flying out of the room against the floor wall. The wall didn't even have a scratch on it, but Raditz already coughed out blood. Broly looked back at the planet where the other Saiyans went. Their reunion had been delayed through Helen, but now it wouldn't take long until he would set foot in his soon-to-be glorious kingdom. After he turned on the autopilot, he turned around and left for the training chambers. Through a window of another room, he was able to see Kana training her family inside. In another, Aliyah and Zhongyao were going at it with increased settings. He finally walked in the one chamber where Raditz was looking at the panel for the room. I wouldn't press that. Those needles would probably instantly kill you. Broly shoved Raditz out of the way and pressed the button for increased gravity. Broly looked at him with his life force vision and started giving him basic exercises to perform. The only reason why he wanted to train Raditz was to see if the potential to become one of the strongest Saiyans was a family thing. Besides, even the maximum settings would only be normal training for him. He would need much harsher environment to yield results. Instead of training his body, he used meditation to increase his ki and used his extra life force to strengthen his body. He also used the time to learn the techniques Helen had left behind, and only on occasions would he give Raditz some pointers. Chapter 94, Arrival. Broly woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, or what he said is the morning, since they were currently speeding through space. He carefully moved Kana's head from his chest to the pillow and slowly wriggled his way out. He then went inside the bathroom, took a shower and brushed his teeth before heading towards the training chamber. Arriving at the training rooms, he instantly saw one with the lights on. He directly went to it and saw Raditz training inside. It has only been a few weeks and Raditz was training like crazy. In the beginning, Broly still had to beat him out of the bed, but especially after his strength grew exponentially, he became obsessed with training. Raditz was now training at 50x times gravity, doing push-ups, sit-ups, and other basic bodyweight training. Broly went inside quietly and waited for a second before stomping the ground. His body shot out and directly headed for Raditz, who was mid-push-up. Broly kicked at his head. Raditz saw this and pushed himself from the ground. He instantly somersaulted backwards and was barely able to escape the kick. Broly immediately followed up and started cornering Raditz. Although Raditz improved in the last weeks, the results in the battles against Broly was still the same, which frustrated Raditz a bit. Of course, he didn't know how high Broly's power actually was. Raditz just felt like Broly's power was like a bottomless ocean. After a while of being beaten up, Raditz was allowed to rest. After these short spars, he would always be beyond exhausted as he was always pushed to his limits. Today, Broly brought out the weights for Raditz and showed him how to lift them properly, so Raditz wouldn't immediately break his back. Raditz was listening carefully and absorbed everything like a sponge. By now he knew that everything Broly said would be of value and help him increase his strength. It was not an exaggeration to say that he felt his strength rapidly grow day by day. After showing Raditz his new workout plan, Broly went ahead and meditated. Thereafter he would give Helen's note a look for techniques he wanted to master. For example, there were things like the Kai Kai, the teleportation used by gods through magic, he already mastered, or Kaioken from the North Kai. To be honest, he, Kana, Aaliyah, and Zangya could have just teleported everyone to the planet they were heading to as they had the coordinates, but that would have directly killed Raditz and the other ones, since they were too weak. Instead, they traveled with their spaceship while training them. There were many other techniques written down, but what interested him the most was God Ki. God Ki is a special type of ki that is far superior to regular ki. It was a ki with a much higher purity than the regular ki and therefore couldn't easily be sensed by normal people. In the time when he had sparred numerous times with Helen, he had asked her for God Ki, but the answer was disappointing. She said that she was unable to directly transfer God Ki to him as it was too burdening for the body. He first didn't want to believe it, as he was pretty confident in his body, but after injecting a sliver of God Ki inside his palm, he felt like his hand was about to be crushed. Since it was a foreign energy, he was unable to absorb it, making it only harmful. She told him that he could perform the God Ritual. The God Ritual is performed by 6 good-hearted Saiyans, who infuse their energy into one of them. That person would gain this Saiyan transformation which grants the user God Ki. Another way for him to gain God Ki was to convert his regular Ki into godly Ki. He needed to purify his Ki, but to do so he would need a massive amount of Ki. The amount wasn't really a problem as he was able to generate Ki naturally, but he also needed control. From what Helen told him, God Ki would only be accessible to use if he was able to fight with his regular Ki without leaking any of it, which would prove his mastery of control over Ki. Since God Ki was a very potent energy and not easily controlled, if he gathered it without the ability to do so, he could end up severely injuring or even crippling himself. For now, she advised him against it as he was still growing and becoming more powerful, which would make his control more difficult. Additionally, his Super Saiyan transformation makes his Ki more violent, and according to Helen this made his God Ki more difficult to control than others. In all, his best shot at God Ki would be the ritual, since it gave him easy-to-control God Ki that he could absorb. This would strengthen his body and give him a taste of God Ki, making his future development with this Ki easier. Now the problem was to find another Super Saiyan to perform the ritual with. Now he couldn't really ask Kakarot for help, could he? He didn't even know if he was considered good-hearted himself, but he didn't really bother with that as he would know after he had performed the ritual. So, for now he focused in the other techniques and training Raditz to become a Super Saiyan. Although he wouldn't say Raditz was good-hearted either, at least he should theoretically have the highest chance to become a Super Saiyan. Maybe if he arrived on the new planet, there would be already new Super Saiyans to greet him. Raditz took a short break from training and saw how easily Broly was hovering midair. He didn't say it out loud, but he had major respect for Broly, especially after witnessing him accidentally leak a huge amount of Ki. The pressure nearly crushed him, which only awed Raditz even more. At first, he had disliked him as he was constantly beating him up. Even Vegeta and Nappa weren't as harsh as him. They only had ignored him and didn't seem to want him dead. This was how he initially perceived it, but after some time, he recognized the worth of these spars. With every spar he had gained tremendously, and the only limit would be Broly's strength and his own willingness to improve. With every occasional pointer, Raditz's growth would be accelerated, and his mistakes were corrected. Raditz already saw Broly as his master, who taught him everything. This style of life would continue for another month until Raditz and everyone in the family of Kana were able to easily withstand 100x times gravity. Broly had gathered them. Alright, after this short period of time you improved by a lot, and I think it is time for us to get to the Saiyans' new home planet. You mean we are finally going to teleport there? Zangya asked excited. Although they all had spent years training inside this ship previously, it didn't mean they preferred it over walking on a planet and breathing fresh air from nature. Yes. Alright, prepare yourself. I don't want anyone to throw up. Broly kneeled on one of his knees and put his hand on the ground. What do you mean with teleport? Raditz asked confused. Broly closed his eyes as he concentrated his magic power as prepared to use Kai Kai. After a moment they all felt their surroundings distort, and in an instant the scenery outside of the window changed. A huge, green-bluish planet was suspended in space. It was a beautiful planet with perfect conditions for the Saiyans to live on. Aaliyah sent a message towards our main ship. I want to know where they had built up our base. Of course. She went up to the panel and typed away. She had quickly sent the message, and now they waited for a response. Weirdly, nothing came back even after a few minutes. Their new king was sending them a message. How could they just ignore it? Only after 30 minutes they received a message about the coordinates for them to land. Aaliyah quickly typed in the coordinates, and the ship directly headed there. It didn't take a minute for the ship to land, right at a small clearing inside a jungle. After landing, they all stepped outside and cloaked their ship. They waited for a moment before a Saiyan who wore a camouflaged uniform ran towards them. He saluted and greeted him as King Broly. Kana's family and Raditz were shocked to find out that Broly was actually the new king of the Saiyans. Lead the way. Broly ordered, and they all followed the Saiyan through the jungle. After 10 minutes, they arrived at a cave entrance. Broly furrowed his eyebrows. You have built your base underground? We had built our original base in a big clearing, but after we were attacked, We were forced to retreat. Chapter 95. Mother. Forced to retreat? Are you kidding me? Broly growled. Yes, sir, it is true. After a few weeks we have landed. Our base was attacked by a group of 10. Their strength was formidable, and there were too many. Ace and Taro weren't able to handle them all. Broly didn't notice it himself, but everyone saw how he smiled after hearing that Ace and Taro weren't able to handle them. They all went inside the cave. It slightly declined as they were led further inside. After a while, their ship could be seen in the center of a gigantic hall. Unexpectedly, the entire hall was been brightened by lights. There were numerous Saiyans moving boxes of food or trees around. It was rather lively. Jian could be seen standing with a notepad giving orders to the Saiyans with the food supply. The Saiyans that they passed showed an excited and happy expression after they saw Broly and immediately saluted. On the side were already a few houses being built. It didn't look like much, but it was enough for Saiyans who would spend most of their time training or going out to fight. It wasn't surprising to find a few coming drowsily out of the training room near the ship. Evidently, those had been sleeping inside. It was a good thing that they integrated gravity chambers that could be detached from the ship. Although Broly had requested from some scientists to develop hoi poi capsules so they could store exponentially more, the invention failed in the end. Seeing how the boxes were transported, he only now remembered. He made a mental note for himself to visit Earth again soon. He walked up to Jian. Hey, what's up? Jian turned her head and immediately saw him. He was not to be overseen with his height after all. Broly. She ran up to him and gave him a big hug. He turned to Aaliyah and Kana and gave them a hug as well. She saw Zangya standing next to Aaliyah and Kana. Jian didn't recognize, but she gave her a hug anyway. You are so pretty. Zangya was a bit flustered by this welcome. Thanks. Jian turned to the bigger group and saw a man with long hair going down his back. He wore a white version of the Frisia's army armor. He was trying to avoid her gaze. His eyes were filled with shame. Jian's eyes widened and quickly became misty. She instantly dashed towards him and tackled him to the ground. Her wails sounded out in the hall, attracting the attention of all Saiyans. Get back to work. Broly shouted out and released his aura. The Saiyans quickly took off and got back to what they were doing. Raditz' eyes teared up as well as he tightly held his mom in his arm. It took them a few minutes before they were able to move inside a building. Jian was constantly wiping away her tears. It has been 25 years since she last saw her husband and sons. All this time, she didn't know if her sons were still alive. She couldn't grieve in the past years as she had to focus on being the pillar for the other Saiyans, or rather it was her way with dealing with it. She would have likely broken down if she hadn't drowned herself in work. All the suppressed emotions now burst out uncontrollably. Raditz was the same. After hearing his home planet being destroyed, he hadn't had a home and family to return to. He wasn't very close to his brother or his father, but he was with Jian. Her personality made him feel welcomed. He was only a low-class Saiyan. He was always being belittled or ignored by the other Saiyans. But his mom was different. She loved him unconditionally, but he was too focused and fitting in. He only learned her love to appreciate only after she was gone. He was happy that he could finally see her again, but he was also ashamed of what he did. He knew that she loved him and Kakarot equally. After meeting his little brother, he didn't take care of him like Jian always told him to, but tried to force him on his side. He was angry at his brother for forgetting about his family and wanted to vent his pent-up frustration on him. If he knew that it would escalate to both of them being dead, he would have never taken this approach. Broly ordered a Saiyan to give Kana's family a house they could reside in and show them around. All the Saiyans, after seeing his strength at the coronation, were undyingly loyal to him. They were awed by his strength and decisiveness. On top of that, he was their savior, so after receiving his order, they would do their utmost to complete it. After the mother-son duo calmed down, Raditz confessed his past action. He told her how he kidnapped Kakarot's son and tried to force him to kill off all the humans on Earth. Jian furrowed her eyebrows as she listened to her son. Of course, she was displeased, but it didn't hold on for long. Maybe it was because that she hadn't seen her son for such a long time, or because she knew that Saiyans weren't good with showing their emotions or with words in general. He changed his name? He is now called Goku? Her eyes were filled with sadness. Her own son couldn't remember her anymore. As a mother, there didn't exist much that would be more painful than that. He even has a family now. Maybe it is better this way? Seeing this, Broly couldn't help but chime in. Maybe he doesn't remember, but that doesn't mean you can't get to know him now. Kakarot never had a mother figure or an older brother. Even if it is late, you guys should at least try to establish a relationship. It will make all three of you happier. You don't have anything to lose? Jian's eyes seemed to clear up a lot, and a glint of determination could be seen. You are right. What kind of mother would I be if I can't even face him? Raditz also clenched his fist. Seems like I have to make it up to him. Only after going through a hellish training for over a month, Raditz had gained a lot of courage. Very well. Broly gave them a smile before becoming serious again. Jian, I heard we got beaten into this cave. It first seemed a bit ridiculous, considering that our average power level is around 400,000 and have 2 Super Saiyan at the top. How strong are they? Were you able to scan their power level? Jine had a troubled expression as she thought about the last few months. She started to retell the attack. After landing on a bigger clearing in the jungle, they had sent a scouter group to scour through the surroundings for potential enemies. In the few hundred kilometers around them, there didn't seem to be any threat for them. They knew that 25 years ago this planet was a taboo for the Saiyans as a power level of 50,000 was detected on it. It was a fearful strength back then, but now it wouldn't account for anything, so they were naturally unafraid. It all went peacefully for over a month and started relaxing because of it. Suddenly, they were attacked in the middle of the night by a group of 10. They all wore all black, which enabled them to easily blend into the night. Their clothes gave the Saiyans a flashback, which caused an initial outbreak of panic, but seeing that they used key attack, they knew that they were just normal aliens. The Saiyans were infuriated and quickly started their counterattacks, but it was hardly effective. Most of them didn't even bother to defend. Even the Saiyans who had their strength boosted with the black liquid were no match for them. Only Ace and Taro as Ascended Super Saiyans, SSJ2, were able to defeat them, but because of their number, they weren't able to prevent them from stealing some of their supplies. One was even able to snatch away a gravity chamber. From then on, they repeatedly started attacking their base from all sides. After a few battles, it was clear that they were after the gravity chambers, but fortunately Ace and Taro were able to prevent it from happening after they found out their purpose. They couldn't stay in the jungle as they weren't as knowledgeable as their attackers. They decided to move into this cave which only had one entrance. This took off a huge burden off Ace and Taro. After that they were easily able to defend their base, but their supplies were running low. They were in a bit of a predicament. They formed a few squads to get some food, but as soon as they went out of range of Ace and Taro's protection, they sustained a few casualties, but no one had voiced out to move from this planet. Although it was a viable solution as it seemed that their opponents didn't have a spaceship, they were adamant on staying. There were two reasons that they didn't. One was because it was the very first order of their new king to establish a base on this planet, and they weren't willing to let it fail. Second reason was because of the speech Broly had given after he killed Rise, the traitor Saiyan, who tried to take over control of their headquarters. It had reminded them of who they were. They were Saiyans, who won't run away from a challenge. Chapter 96. You are weak. While Broly was talking to Jine, Ace and Taro were informed about Broly's arrival. The two immediately called back the squads who were out, searching for supplies. Shortly after their message was sent out, they all returned. Ace and Taro commanded them to hide near the entrance and inform them if any movement was being detected. The two then went towards the building Broly and Jine were waiting. On the way they saw Daz going towards the building as well. They entered the room where Broly was together. Broly! Ha ha ha. Good to see you. Taro shouted out as he gave Broly a hug. Hey girls. Ha ha ha. Taro turned to Aaliyah and Kana and hugged them as well. Ace and Daz followed suit. Daz looked at Zangya and Broly with narrowed eyes. And you are? Before Zangya or Broly could say anything, Aaliyah spoke out. This is Zangya, Broly's third girlfriend. She is the niece from the city lord. Although Broly first didn't want to, Kana and I convinced him in the end. Aaliyah said calmly with a smile. Broly and Zangya widened their eyes as they heard it and coincidentally met each other gazes. Zangya's ears turned slightly red but didn't break eye contact. Broly just returned her gaze. Des sensed that something was wrong but decided to just let it go after seeing his daughter being so open about it. She didn't seem to be disturbed, sad or mad. So if his daughter approved of this relationship, he wouldn't say anything. He just wanted her to be happy. It is an honor. Raditz suddenly went up to Daz and greeted him. I have seen you when I was a child. You are an elite-class warrior. Daz only smiled bitterly. Thanks, but you should know that this title doesn't mean anything anymore. Raditz only fell silent on these words. He always admired and envied the elite class, but after knowing that his little brother became a Super Saiyan, he knew that even low-class Saiyans could become unimaginably strong. Alright, let's tackle the problems we have at hand. Broly broke the silence. Ace Taro, I heard that you fought them several times now already. How strong are they? If we go all out, Taro can handle 7 of them and I only about 3. Ace reported. Alright, show me your full strength. After saying that, Broly stepped outside, back into the cave hall again. The others followed him outside. Go ahead. Ace and Taro flew into the sky and powered up. In an instant they became Super Saiyans, but they didn't just stop after transforming once. Their ki was rising as the stagnated air suddenly became violent and lightning appeared in their near periphery. Their strength made the earth tremble. With a ki burst, their strength alleviated to a new plateau. Their hair became thinner and spikier. They were leaking tremendous amount of power that made everyone shiver. Well, for the normal Saiyan, that is. So, this is a Super Saiyan. Raditz were flabbergasted as he looked at the two hovering midair. He was shaking under the power the two were releasing. Broly, on the other hand, only shook his head and waved his hand. Alright, that is enough. The two quickly landed, and were a bit confused by his disappointed expression. You have finally reached Super Saiyan 2, but how come your strength is still so weak? Weak? Yes. You two can't even defeat Kana with the same transformation. Taro, you are not even half as strong as her. They widened their eyes and looked at Kana, who was looking at them smugly as she put her hands on her hips, doing a pose with her nose pointing to the ceiling. Well, considering the training Broly forced us to do in our special training chamber and the help of Helen, it is no surprise that our strength is far above theirs. Aaliyah added, it is rather surprising that they could even remotely keep up with us. But we have the same training room, Taro mumbled. And who is Helen? Broly's and Zhangya's future daughter. Kana casually said out loud. Huh. The others became confused, but Broly wanted to move on. He wasn't too happy with the two slacking off so much. No wonder they have problem with some random thugs. Broly thought. He just had too high expectations for his two friends, as he compared them to Aaliyah and Kana. After all, he was the main reason why the two girls became so strong in only a few years. Of course, the wish did its job as well. Anyway, let's not talk about that. Just remember to push more in your training routine. You know what? After we are done with our opponents, I will help you adjust your training. Sigh. Alright, let's just look at our opponents as sparring partners. Aaliyah and Kana, you help Aiz and Taro to kill them, but don't use Super Saiyan 2. Stay in 1. You would probably kill them in seconds if you don't, and that wouldn't be as beneficial for your training. Of course, if you are in a pickle, just go all out. Broly rubbed his temple. By the way, why did we have to land on that clearing anyway? Could have just told us the location of this cave? Well, we didn't want you to be attacked by them as you were landing, so we took a side a bit further away. But we can cloak ourselves? Forget it, it should be undetectable for now. How late is it? It is around 5 p.m. It still takes a while for the sun to go down. Our friends will surely attack then. Good. Then let's eat first and then get our ship. They all went towards the cafeteria to eat. So, how is the situation? A cloaked figure asked another who was looking what seemed like binoculars. They were standing far away on a mountain peak. A new ship landed a bit off their base. They left the ship in the clearing. It wasn't moved away, but just made invisible. It appeared like it carried some important figures. From what I could see, they looked like experts by the way they walked. Maybe it is their reinforcement. A new ship? Good. Get the ship immediately. If it has more of those healing pills, the better. You better have some results this time. Our Lord gets impatient with you. The cloaked figure with the binocular in hand laughed bitterly. You know it is almost impossible to get by those two, who are guarding the entrance. He packed away the binoculars before continuing. Don't worry. It is unmanned now. We will definitely get you the ship. Make it quick. Adrian. Got it. Adrian pulled back his hood and revealed his fair skin and his pointy ears. Broly would have immediately recognized him as an elf. He jumped down the mountain and quickly entered the jungle. Not deep inside, he flew up a massive tree to a door embedded in the side. He opened it and revealed what seemed to be a tavern. The people inside were in a good mood as they were singing and dancing as they got drunk on their alcohol. Adrian went upstairs and entered the door at the end of the corridor. He was greeted by 9 others who were tending their wounds. You are back already? Did they move out or something? A guy asked as someone looked at his wounds underneath his bandage. Another group of theirs appeared. It seems to be reinforcement. More of those damn aliens. Why the fuck do they want to invade our planet? He shouted out, nearly standing up before being pushed down. Don't move. I have to check your wounds first. The woman who tended him growled at him. Don't worry, we don't have to fight them. We just have to get their ship they had left behind. Most important priority are their healing pills, and then those rooms. Unbelievable. Instead of focusing on those rooms, we should just kill them all. Why doesn't the Lord just send the army? Another guy said viciously. You know those would only be cannon fodder. Their average soldier far exceeds the strength of ours. We have to be careful. Besides, those rooms seem to be for training purposes. Our Lord intends to use them to create the next elite squad. If we can't defeat them, the next generation has to bear this burden. Sigh. Let's just focus on our mission. Do it as usual, search for the healing pills. If you can't find it, go for the rooms. Adrian said as he turned around, ready to leave. Do you think it is a trap? Maybe they intentionally placed the ship there. A young woman, leaning against the wall next to the door, asked. Maybe, but we have to risk it. We can't enter their cave, so this is our best shot. If it contains those healing pills, it will bring our Lord to full strength. Then he can deal with those aliens. If we can only snatch away those rooms, we can play the long run and fight an extended war. We have to get what we can, otherwise we will be the ones exterminated this time. Chapter 97. Lucy. Lucy was still leaning against the wall next to the door. Their captain Adrian just left through. She was thinking about the last few months since those aliens invaded their home planet. A few years back they were invaded by another army. The soldiers then described themselves as subordinates of Lord Cooler. They were just too strong, but after waging war with them for months, the elites of their race were finally able to kill them all. Thereafter, they put all their resources together to establish an elite squad that would defend their world if one day another invasion came to be. Lucy was obviously one of them, one of the most talented females. Even before she was put into the program to become a member of this elite squad, she was a champion of her kingdom with a tender age of 16. Now, a few years later, she had excellent results. She was said to be the third strongest on this planet, after Adrian and their lord in his prime. She gave it her all to be the strongest she could be, not only for herself but for her little sister as well. They were always all they had. That's why she had to leave. Like her sister showed an extraordinary talent, and with this new training room, she would reach unbelievable heights, but she couldn't allow this. She had been in this room, and it was horrifying. Even she or Adrian couldn't reach the upper limits of this room, and the methods themselves were torturing. She had always been fighting her whole life, trying to create a safe environment for her sister. She wouldn't let her sister endure a struggle worse than hers, just to become another of her lord's pawn. The lord had already brought her sister to the military base nearby, but because Lucy had adamantly rejected them to put her into the room, since she was one of their strongest, they couldn't just ignore her will, so they had to comply. Her sister would only do basic training for now, but she didn't know how long she would be able to keep them at bay. She couldn't understand why they all were just too stubborn to leave this planet. If the aliens want to have it so badly, then just give it to them. Her race was strong enough to establish themselves on any other planet. Since they want to stay here, then they can just do that. If she could steal the ship, she would be able to leave this planet with her sister and live somewhere far away. She could only hope that the ship would have a lot of healing pills, so Adrian would bring those pills directly to the city lord. With Adrian out of the picture, she would have free reign. She now only needed a pilot who could control the alien spaceship, for her sister to be ready for takeoff and for the other squad members to be distracted when the time comes. She still had about half an hour. It should be enough to get her preparations done. Lucy went out of the room with determination. After half an hour, the squad had assembled themselves already. Only Lucy was missing. Where the fuck is she? A guy with a long scar across his face growled out. As soon as his words fell, a figure rapidly approached them from the distance. Lucy landed right in front of them in full camouflaged gear like the rest. Where were you? Adrian asked. It was weird that she left right before the start of the mission. I just visited my sister, just to be sure. After all, there are new experts in their base now, right? Don't jinx it, Adrian said with a wry smile. All right, enough chatting. Let's do this. From the base of the tree, they quickly flew through the jungle. After only a few dozen minutes, they arrived a few tens of kilometers away from the clearing. They had to be cautious. Maybe the aliens had placed a few sentries here, or just scouts hiding in the bushes. They were carefully scouring through the surroundings as they searched for any aliens lying in wait. Although they were careful, they were quite confident in their abilities, especially after seeing the skills of their enemies. Of course, they were strong opponents and battle-hardened, but their knowledge over this terrain was subpar compared to theirs. After another 10 minutes, they were only a few kilometers away. They had already spread and were trying to surround the clearing, so they wouldn't be surprised from one side. A few minutes after approaching it further, they started to give each other signals, so they would know who was in position. They imitated bird and other animal noises to make the others know. In the jungle, this wouldn't draw any suspicion. Furthermore, the aliens seemed to be unfamiliar with these tactics. After all of them were in position, one of them approached the clearing. He entered the clearing and dashed towards the middle. He seemed to crash into something after trenches in the ground appeared. They were obviously made by the ship's legs. After the ship had been described to them, they knew the rough outer layout. The figure ducked under the ship and positioned himself in the center. He straightened his back and lifted it from the ground. He quickly flew into the sky and headed straight into one direction. He was flying just over the crowns of the trees, so one couldn't easily detect him, and the ship wouldn't be obstructed by the trees. The one with the ship had flown to a small area with a small pond. He was hovering above the pond waiting. After a while, Adrian, Lucy, and 2 other squad members had gathered again. Adrian looked around for the other members a bit distressed. He wanted to quickly leave. He as well as the others felt ominous. From start to finish, this all went too smoothly, or was it just their imagination? Either way, it wouldn't be wrong to finish this mission as soon as possible. Suddenly they heard something seemingly falling through the air. It came from above them. Disperse! Adrian shouted and quickly shot out. He and the others distanced themselves from the pond. They looked back and saw how some things splashed into the pond and were quickly washed to the side. They looked around, waiting for their enemies to strike, but nothing seemed to happen. They looked at the things that landed in the pond and were horrified. Those weren't just some things, they were the corpses of their squad members. A twisted neck, a hole in the forehead, the head separated from the body, and someone impaled by their own arms. It was a horrifying scene. These were the elites of this planet, and they died without them even noticing anything. How do you like my present? A low voice boomed above them. It sent a shiver down their spine. They felt like this voice couldn't belong to a person but a monster. They looked upwards and saw a tall figure with white trousers and a red sash. He wore golden ornaments on his limbs and his neck. He gave them a majestic and elegant feeling, but also that of a horrifying monster hiding underneath that facade. He calmly landed behind them. They were now trembling with their backs to their comrades, which gave them a haunting feeling in their back, and a monster in humanoid skin staring at them mockingly. They couldn't bring themselves to talk. They knew that they would stand no chance against him. The corpses behind them were proof enough. But what made them even more frightened was that he didn't release any pressure. Nothing was scarier than the unknown. They would probably handle it better if they were under the pressure of his ki, but there was nothing of that kind. Although this was the case, they could feel how a guillotine was hovering above their neck, waiting to claim their life. I asked you a question. Why yes, it's fantastic, sir. No, I mean your lore, your majesty. I didn't want to steal your ship, your godliness. I was forced the one with the ship placed it in front of him and fell on his knees as he kowtowed to the alien with tears in his eyes. The monster in front of them looked at him with a disgusted expression and took out a rectangle black object and pressed on it several times. The ship suddenly appeared again. The monster went inside for a short moment and came back outside. The ship started its engines and flew into the sky. He looked at them and started speaking. I am Broly, king of the Saiyan race. I have heard that you killed some of my soldiers. To be honest, if you were any stronger, I would have fought it out with you by my own. But your strength barely even qualifies as an opportunity for some of my friends. Ah, there they are. 1 green and 4 golden lights shot towards them and landed directly beside King Broly. There were 3 beautiful women even for their race's standards, and the 2 who had fought them for the past. 5 against 5. Seems fair enough. Go have some fun. Broly grinned. Chapter 98. Deal. As soon as his word fell, his group dashed at the natives. They all had already transformed. Aiz and Taro were able to fight equally with 10 of them, but now each had only one opponent. The girls were even stronger in their normal Super Saiyan transformation than the 2 when going full out, which put the natives under a whole different level of pressure. Since the beginning, it was clear who was winning. The invaders clearly dominated the natives in every way, be it speed, strength, or techniques. They easily evaded all of their attacks and broke the natives' defenses as easily. It didn't even take half a minute for them to be covered in blood and die shortly afterwards. In the end, only 2 have survived so far. A guy who seemed to be the squad leader and a young woman with beautiful features that even the blood couldn't hide. With the seconds ticking away, their movements became sloppier and they sustained more injuries. Aiz and Taro were giving them quite the beating, but it was astonishing that they were still standing. The others who were done with their fight already returned to the side of Broly and observed the scene in front of them. All right, that is enough, Broly said. Aiz and Taro immediately stopped and returned to Broly. They were smiling at the bloody figures in front of them and were still in their ascended Super Saiyan transformation. It was clear that those 2 had no intention of letting them go. Broly, on the other hand, was quite relaxed. He rather was hoping that they would try to escape. This whole scene wasn't a real fight for them to begin with. It would be more interesting to turn this into a hunt, but this wasn't why he had stopped them from killing them. How about a deal? After his voice fell, the 2 looked at him as they coughed out blood. It was clear that their current state was critical. Broly was patiently waiting for them to settle down, so he had their full attention. You see, you are just 2 of many. I don't really care if you lived or not. So, how about you tell me where your base is, and I may spare your life. How does that sound to you? Adrian was panting heavily as his eyes turned cold while he looked at the alien's king. You think we would make a deal with you? I will never help you. I would wrath dash. Before he could finish, Broly had already waved his arm and in an instant, he was carried away by a ki blast. In the air it exploded, directly incinerating Adrian's body in a flash. He didn't even have time to scream as he was killed with nothing of him to remain. Do you think the same? Broly grinned at the woman as he formed another ki sphere in his hand. No, I want to live. She groaned out with all her might. She couldn't just die here. If she did, all her efforts and hopes for the future would disappear. She had to survive no matter the costs. She just wanted to return to her sister, who was waiting for her to leave this planet. She wanted to leave with her and never turn back, live a life void of fighting, void of struggling. If this meant to betray her race, leading to thousands of deaths and worse, she would do it. I have a condition. A condition? Do you really think you are in a position to have demands? She gritted her teeth, not breaking eye contact with this monster in humanoid flesh. She knew if she just told him what he wanted, she would die without even knowing how. Even if he kept what he said, would she be able to live knowing that she could have saved her sister? I want you to spare my sister as well. I want you to promise as the king that you will let us leave safely. Broly crossed his arms and tapped on his arm with his finger. He saw the look in her eyes and knew that she wouldn't budge on the demands. He instantly knew why she was suspicious that he would just kill her afterwards. After all, to them they were invaders who were here to conquer this planet. She counted on the fact that as a king, he had to keep his promises, otherwise he wouldn't be trustworthy. He noticed that the others were looking at him, waiting for his answer. Of course, she didn't know that those around him were not only his subordinates, but his friends as well. But even if she knew, it wouldn't change her demands as this was her lifeline and it was a good move. If he made a promise, he would accomplish it no matter what, but he wasn't someone who would just give out promises. Even for his master, the city lord, he didn't promise to save his niece, but just said he would try it. Now some random alien wanted his word for her safety. What a joke. He just wanted to play with him for a bit, wanted to see their reactions when they were given a choice. Broly didn't change his expression as thought about it. After contemplating for a while, he gave her a grin. All right. I promise that as the king of the Saiyan race I will guarantee you a safe conduct as you leave this planet. The others widened their eyes but didn't say anything. After that, this woman called Lucy led them near their base. It was hidden underground and wouldn't easily be found by the Saiyans. Unbeknownst to Lucy, they were conversing mentally with each other. They had practically bombarded him with questions. Why didn't he just sense their life force? Would he really let her life? After all, she was responsible for a few Saiyan deaths. Indeed, he could just locate them through life force, kill them all and be done with it. But he thought about something. He had noticed through her life force that she didn't only look young, but was by far the youngest of the squad they had just eliminated. She should be in her early 20s, and she was already more than twice as strong as he assumed Super Perfect Cell to be. An astonishing talent dying so young on this planet without seeing the universe. It was a shame and Broly didn't care one bit. But this was a perfect opportunity. Maybe she would get lucky, learn more things and become horrifying strong. Maybe then she would give him a good spar. It was only in his desire if she becomes stronger. It would always be two less opponents for him, so intentionally creating a few by his own, perfectly aligned with his thirst for battle. She told them that she would get her sister, and then show them the entrance for the base. Of course, Broly told Aaliyah, as she was the strongest, to go with her. Broly also called the warrior to his position and to prepare for the war of supremacy on this planet. It didn't take long until his little army of 300 Saiyans arrived at his location. After gathering, they had divided into smaller squads of 5 like they did in the past. They were already riled up as they saw their king and the other Super Saiyans standing at the forefront. Their blood was boiling from excitement. Only in a few moments they could vent their past months' frustrations on the natives. Lucy, and what seemed to be an 8-year-old little girl, approached Broly. They were quickly stopped by a few Saiyans until Broly waved her in. While tightly gripping her sister's hand, she approached Broly. I am ready, but before you start attacking, could you lead us to the spaceship? We would rather leave early than later. Broly hesitated for a second before nodding. She showed them the entrance from a few kilometers away. It was a 3-meter-tall metal door, hidden in bushes and trees. After confirming it, he waved his arm and ordered for a Saiyan to help the sisters get off this planet with the ship. He first wanted them to watch, but he didn't know their psychologies of this race. Would that kid dedicate her life for vengeance like a Saiyan would, or completely break down, becoming useless? The sister duo quickly left with the Saiyan, and it would probably a long time until they see each other again. You are more ruthless than I thought. Zhangya suddenly voiced out. What do you mean? Well, you're going to commit genocide, and we're tempted to let some of their kids watch as you did it. I don't care about the well-beings of my enemies. Maybe if it was individuals who committed these acts without their lord knowing, I would have spared them. But fact is that their very lord is approving and ordering these attacks. If they really didn't want to do it, they would have already rebelled against him. Besides, we don't have the resources and time. It is just too bothersome to pick out the ones who are good and willing to serve me after killing their lord and all the people supporting him. It is easier to just wipe them out. Creator's thoughts. Drogzel. In the upcoming weeks, I have my finals. I am currently preparing for it. So it might be that the chapters become shorter or come out on different times. But don't worry, there will still be daily chapters. Chapter 99. I want to rule. Are you sure, Broly? Aaliyah suddenly asked. About what? To wipe them out. If we kill them now, it would do us really no good. Other that they attacked us with a few soldiers, they haven't gone all in for a war. Maybe we can come to another conclusion? You can't be serious. They only used these few soldiers because they were the strongest they had. After their first attack, they must have noticed that the average of us is far stronger than theirs. It also seems there aren't too many of them, meaning if they went all out, they would suffer far more casualties or even lose the war completely. The only reason they only sent out their elites was because they were confident that those would return. Besides, by targeting the gravity rooms, it showed that they plan to use them. They probably want to train their soldiers with it. Yes, that may be true, but for them we are invaders. They only want to protect their home. Tell me, Ace, Taro had any of our soldiers contact with one of them before they attacked? Broly turned towards the two. No, sir. We were attacked without prior notice. Ace reported while Taro confirmed with a nod. Aaliyah, they were ignorant of our existence and yet attacked and stole our supplies. What if we were just here for resupplying, our fuel ran out, or we're just here to explore this planet? They were hostile the moment we got here without knowing our purpose. But dash. Aaliyah, just say it. Why are you hesitating? While the two were talking, the others were listening as well. Jine and Daz had quietly joined them as well. The atmosphere was so thick, one could practically cut it with a knife. The others were tense, since this was the first time someone questioned his orders and they didn't know how he would react. Previously, as a king, he had only ordered them to create a base on this planet, which they didn't accomplish satisfactorily. It was a new situation, but it would severely dictate how they talked to him when he was just Broly, or when he was acting as their king. King Broly. I never was on planet Vegeta and was brought up with caring parents. On Perditus we didn't go around and kill others carelessly because of conflicts. We had tried to establish alliances with other races. It was difficult with our race's temperament, but we still tried, and we succeeded. The other races may have feared us in the beginning, but in the end, we have gathered not only allies but friends. Many races started to respect us not out of fear, but what good we accomplished with this strength. To exterminate a whole race because we had a conflict with them seems too hasty and cold. We have survived on Perditus until you arrived because we had relied on others. We grew stronger, but if we wipe them out now, I feel like we would revert back to what we were. Warmongers, who can't do anything but destroy. Broly looked straight ahead at the entrance of the natives' base as he thought about it, before he spoke out. Saiyans are innate warriors, who strive for battle, for a challenge. I don't think if the other races from Perditus were left out of the equations that we would have died out. Saiyans naturally grow from pressure. The reason we used to be so weak was because we only attacked planets we were able to conquer. That said, it would align for us to exterminate them, considering our nature. Of course, that wasn't why I want them dead. The reason I wanted them dead was because it would be bothersome. They hadn't welcomed us in the past, and probably won't in the future. It is the most cost-efficient to take them out now before they gained strength and rebelled against us. It seems like I feared that they would become a threat to the Empire I wanted to establish. No one said anything. Even the other 300 Saiyans became quiet as they sensed the atmosphere. Broly looked at his palm before closing it to a fist. He turned around and looked at the Saiyans waiting for his orders. Everyone, I have gathered you here for a war, but I have to disappoint you. This will be a subjugation. Capture them alive. Ahu! The crowd screamed at the same time and stormed the entrance en masse. Jine, Kana, and Aaliyah sighed out in relief, while Taro and Ace were expressionless. Zangya frowned but didn't say anything. Daz suddenly approached him. Are you sure about this? Even if we spare them and try to show them our goodwill, they will be out for blood in the future. They will only see us as invaders who robbed them from their planet. They will definitely want revenge, but I am not doing this for them. I am doing it for our future. What do you mean? I have thought about it. Many of our soldiers are still accustomed to our ways from planet Vegeta. When conquering a planet, they would completely level the civilization to the ground. They indiscriminately killed everyone and then just sold the planet. But as Aaliyah said, we would revert to what we used to be. It would only take us as far as we used to be. So, these natives will be perfect subjects to test how to administer another race. You mean? Daz seemed to come to a realization. Yes, we will need experience on how to govern another race, not how to kill them. If I want to conquer the whole universe, I can't just kill them all. I need many forces to help me. Daz, I don't want to sell planets. A planet without life is useless to me. I want to rule these planets. Govern them. But this will only bring us trouble. Especially those elves, they will rebel against us. Oh, of course, but we would only learn from it, and if we want to rule other races, we will be prepared. Besides, they aren't really able to threaten us, at least not after we killed their elites. Now that I think about it, it's better to have our first attempt in governing to be a difficult race to handle. Daz, in the future we have city lords all over the universe. We can't rule with force alone. Such an empire would only crumble with time. Now that we are still off the radar, we can gather some experience. I hope you are right. Daz, I want you to create some files who you would think are fit to govern a race and bring them to me. Sai. Understood, my majesty. Broly then turned to the other Super Saiyans. I want you to protect them. If there are too strong opponents for them to handle, do it yourself. I will be going for their leader. The group quickly flew out to the base and helped the Saiyans. Zangya approached him before he flew out himself. Broly, you want to establish a universal empire? Didn't know you were this ambitious. There is just something about science and conquering. Don't lose yourself in it. Power and greed are easy to fall into but hard to come out from. You don't have to conquer the universe or even one more planet. A single planet would be enough for your race to live on. Exactly. I am not doing it because I have to, but because I want to. Heroes don't have to save the galaxy as long as they stay on their planet. It is unlikely that they will have a problem with entities on galaxy level, but they still do it because of their beliefs. I don't want to be a hero. I want to be the strongest conqueror that has ever existed. Talking about ambitious. Well, I guess you can call me lucky to be on your side. All right, enough talking, let's do this. After saying that, Broly and Zhangya flew towards the entrance, where they could already see numerous elvish-looking soldiers bound or knocked out. There were some areas that were burning, but nothing out of the boundary. There was a squad stationed in the entrance looking over their captives. As soon as they saw Broly approach, they saluted. Broly went inside and saw their underground base. It was a giant plain hall. A few Saiyans were still fighting with some soldiers, but defeated them quickly. With a quick look, Broly saw at least 200 elves captured. He sensed the strongest life force and quickly headed there. It didn't take him long through the numerous tunnels to get out as he entered a valley. Only a small hole in the ceiling led outside from this valley and showed the stars outside. A valley underground, it was quite beautiful. As he looked around, he saw the battle in the distance. He quickly flew towards it with Zhangya in tow. Chapter 100, Last Line of Defense. As Broly approached the group, who were having a battle, he saw that some natives were personally suppressed by Aiz and Taro. Their opponents were stronger than the average Saiyan, but they were nowhere near enough for the two Saiyans to go Super Saiyan 2. Hey Aiz, where are the others? He asked while the other was still fighting. King Broly, they went further to the north. There seemed to be a barrier around a castle. I went to investigate and subjugate the guards still outside. I see. When you are done here, gather every single one of them in the castle after I have conquered it. For now, I want you two here and make sure that they don't escape. Understood. Aiz saluted. Broly and Zhangya left the two behind. Could you be any more stiff? Taro mocked Aiz. I am a soldier. Maybe you should act as one as well. Well, we are his friends, so I don't worry about it. Yeah? Why didn't you say anything then? Cough. He seemed busy right now. Oh man, he just gives off this vibe right now. Then his aim was probably reached. He needs to show this kind of bearing. Although he is our friend, he is our king. Don't forget that. I know. Aiz looked at Taro, who fell silent. I think you shouldn't call him king though, if you don't want to. We have already built enough respect from the other Saiyans. It wouldn't be weird if we are more personally with Broly. Besides, you always grimace when you say something you don't want to. It looks stupid. Hey. HM? So, that is the barrier they were talking about, Broly said as he looked at the pale green sphere around a medieval castle on a small hill. There were houses around the barrier at the foot of the hill, or rather carved out trees. It was easy for the Saiyans to round them up. Most of those inside the trees were weak civilians. There was only one figure hovering in front of the barrier. Broly approached Kana, who was observing the barrier. Broly stopped beside her. How is it? Aren't you able to break through? Kana looked at him and smiled teasingly before she bends her knee while bowing her head, giving him a curtsy. My king, the barrier is difficult to break through. It would take me at least 20 minutes to break through. Way too exhausting. You do it. You only need like a second. So good luck. Broly raised his eyebrow at the way she talked to him. You don't seem disturbed by my aura. PSSHH. Don't you realize that you sometimes release that aura in bed when you pick up the speed? You give off this manly aura like you want to dominate everything around you. It is really arousing. She approached him and caressed his inner thigh, teasingly staring at him. We have a war to wage. Concentrate. All right, then go ahead and break the barrier. Broly was speechless, but was more so happy that she was unaffected. He hadn't realized that he sometimes used it unconsciously. Maybe he should be more aware of it in the future. After all, he was using the technique he learned back on Perditus to release his aura, but he thought this shouldn't normally be his go-to. The aura is used to intimidate one's opponent, affect their emotions. It shouldn't be his way to rule or embed. He only did it intentionally now since the other Saiyans haven't seen him in action. They may have heard of his actions of eliminating the CEs, but beside Kana, no one was there to witness it. He did show his legendary state at the coronation, but it was only for a moment and shouldn't be as memorable as a fight or another showcase of his destructive power. It was not like he believed that they would intentionally ignore his order, but they were in a blood-boiling fight right now. It would be easy for them to lose themselves in the fight. If they didn't follow his orders, he would make an example out of that Saiyan, but he couldn't afford to lose his already few Saiyan subordinates. Instead, he used his aura to intimidate those around him and remind him of what he was capable of and that he wasn't to be messed with. As he looked and analyzed the barrier, he found out that he couldn't sense ki nor life force through it, but magic power. To be precise, the whole barrier was created through magic. Magic has many different uses, like mind control or paralyzing. Protection barrier powered by magic were also very strong. Even someone like Babidi in the series was able to hold on for a few moments against Piccolo. Without thinking further, Broly's size increased a bit, his muscles expanded slightly, and his hair changed golden. He opened his blue-greenish eyes and stared at the barrier in front of him. He held his right hand upwards and a spear seemed to manifest itself from thin air, starting from the middle. The spear glowed green and the spearhead in particular was shining brightly. Green lightning appeared around Broly while holding his spear. He looked like a thunder god about to judge a mortal. Bluish lightning lines appeared on the spear as Broly inputted magic power. Its strength by now was a complete overkill for this barrier, and Broly knew it. With a calamity-like atmosphere surrounding Broly, it quickly attracted everyone's attention. Thunder Spear. He was grinning as he threw the spear at the barrier. It seemed to tear through space and time as it left behind a green-bluish line of light. It instantly reached and penetrated the barrier. With loud pop and glass-shattering clinker, the barrier fell apart. As the barrier was falling apart, every other person was staring with wide eyes. The natives knew of the prowess of that barrier. It had sustained hundreds of years without anyone able to break it after being activated. That was also why they had moved here after the last invasion. It was a sanctuary and their last line of defense. Now it was easily broken, and the natives immediately understood the might of the frightening figure hovering in the air. If that figure wanted all of the people outside of the barrier dead, he wouldn't even need half of the energy he used to break the barrier. All present had this scene of a godlike figure throwing his lightning spear at the barrier burned into their scalps. A moment they wouldn't forget. The Saiyans were stunned as well. They had seen Aiz and Taro in action several times, but this was something on a completely different scale. Many were ecstatic that they had such a powerful king, but more were just glad not to be his enemy. Broly landed inside the castle, and with a look he destroyed the gate. Although they could all fly over the gate, it was more of a symbolic action. Their gates of their sanctuary were single-handedly opened by the enemies. Nothing could now stop them from going in. Broly walked down the main path towards the main building at the end. Soldiers suddenly stormed out of the door from the side buildings. Broly instantly sensed that those were the strongest soldiers the natives had left. Their last line of defense. Broly just kept walking through the crowd of soldiers. Although they, the Royal Guard, were the strongest soldiers, this was only as an average. Compared to the elite squad, they were still far behind. They were cowering as they pointed their weapons at him and showed fake courage. In the end, no one dared to attack him. They knew that they wouldn't be able to last a fraction of a second against him. Every single casual attack from him would be able to decimate them. As Broly walked past them, they broke out in cold sweat and their legs gave in. A 2-meter-tall man with a cross scar across his face and bulging muscles standing at the far back was screaming at them to attack, but no one listened to him. Through the armor he wore, it was obvious that this person was a general, but no one cared about him now.
Fine.
I will do it myself. Hiya. The general gripped his spear and stomped the ground, shooting straight Broly. He quickly arrived in front of Broly, and with his momentum, he thrusted his spear forward. His spear was covered in white ki as it shot through the air. Snap. The spear instantly snapped in half. It wasn't able to leave a single scratch on Broly's chest.
Impossible.
Before he could retreat, his head was grabbed by Broly. The general futilely tried to pull himself away as he was raised into the air, but it was already too late. In an instant a cracking sound was heard as his head was crushed. The general's body became limp as blood spewed onto the ground. Broly threw away the body to the side onto the soldier, who were watching in horror. They didn't even dare to move the body away as they looked at Broly walking undisturbed through the crowd. The blood on his hand, the few drops of blood on his face, and this terrifying grin on his face made the soldier only think of one thing. One does not simply attack a king. Broly's low voice boomed through the streets. This is the devil.